Hello, my name is Luke, and I am in software, and am passionate about helping other people get into software. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So I want to talk to you about getting into big tech and specifically people trying to get into software, getting into big tech. So a lot of people want to get in, and I've never worked for big tech. A lot of people want to get into big tech because it's very elite. If you get into big tech, you're the best of the best. It's very competitive, which makes it attractive. It pays crazy well. Its skill level, probably you learn really fast. I don't know if that's the case, probably. So the learning part of it, and then, it sets your career up for success because, once you've worked at big tech, other people are more inclined to hire you because you worked at big tech. So definitely, if you can get in big tech, great, awesome. But I would advise against, as someone who's trying to get into software, aiming for big tech at all. I would take it off the table. Don't even think about it. It's not an option. And the reason is it's highly competitive, and your chances of getting into it statistically are very low. And I'm not saying you're not qualified, you couldn't do it. What I'm saying is there's a good chance you won't. And, you're going to waste time because it's going to be all you're doing. Because if you're focusing on something that's very difficult, you need to focus on that in order to make it happen. So you can't be pursuing other things. I guess you could, but you're gonna waste time. And then once you get a rejection, assuming you get a rejection, then you have to start over pursuing other companies, and then those companies are your second choice. And potentially that is something that could sabotage your happiness in that role because it's not the one you wanted. So if you just start looking for things outside of big tech that you can get, then you get your first choice. And I'm not saying don't try hard things or things that you're not guaranteed to get. What I'm saying is it's already hard to get into tech. It's hard to get into software. Extremely competitive right now. Why add on another layer of complexity, of difficulty, because it's also very hard to get into big tech. It's not easy. And I read something on LinkedIn not too long ago that said a lot of people who work at big tech are there not because they made it through the interview process, which is very grueling, but the companies they work for were acquired. Now there are people who make it through the interview process, obviously, but keep that in mind that the pool of seats is very limited. There are a lot of people who are qualified for those roles who would do great and excel, who are not going to get those jobs. So just because you could doesn't mean you will, even if you try. And I'm not trying to be somebody who crushes dreams or hopes or anything like that. I'm just trying to give you advice that will help you get into software and start being successful in it, as fast as possible in the best way possible. And what I think is that shooting for startups and small companies is the way to go. I also prefer working at startups and small companies, personal preference, and you can check out other content of mine about why I like those. So just kind of to maybe flesh out the idea and kind of where my mind's at on my suggestion here is if you ever saw the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. It's about like this crazy smart guy. I think he was in economics. I think that's right. Either math or economics, I'm pretty sure. But he was a genius. And there's a scene in the movie where he and his friends are at a bar, and it's all about the pretty girl at the bar, and all the friends are talking about like who's gonna go talk to the pretty girl, or they're all talking about going to talk to the pretty girl. Um, and so Russell Crowe tells his friends, Russell Crowe's character, like, if we all go after the pretty girl, what's going to happen is we're going to be competing with each other. None of us are going to, have a successful interaction with the pretty girl. And then we're going to all try to go talk to the other girls who are here, and they're not going to want to talk to us because they'll see that they are our second choice. And so what we should do instead is all go talk to not the pretty girl. Nobody should go talk to the pretty girl, because we're not going to be able to agree amongst ourselves who gets to go talk to the pretty girl. So if none of us do and go talk to the other girls, we'll have a much higher chance of having a positive interaction with these girls, because we won't be competing with each other. And so then that idea, and I didn't look this up, it's just something somebody told me, but I think it's true, was applied to the economic policy of the U.S. Later. That idea was just kind of applied to economics and made, kind of a standard for how the U.S. would interact with, foreign countries in trade agreements and stuff. And I won't talk more about that because I don't know. But you could, and when I think about this topic of trying to get into big tech, I apply the same idea. If you go for big tech, your chances of getting it are crazy low. They just are. And so if you just don't go for that, even if it's something that someday you want, and go for something that's more attainable, you're more likely to get it and get into tech, right? Now, once you've been in tech for a while, a year, 2 years, however long, if you want to then start pursuing big tech, you've broken up, the difficult things that you're trying to do. I broke into big tech, get solidified in it. I try to get into big tech, got into tech, then go on to big tech. I don't know. But, I think that is a much more feasible, healthy, keeps you moving, and it's iterative, breaks it up into small pieces instead of trying to do it all at once. And, when you're trying to get into big tech, you're working in software already. So there's no rush, if you see what I mean. I think that's all I want to say.